In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the current conditions, diving into the upcoming pattern where we do have multiple Arctic blasts expected as well, some stormy conditions, and we do have two tropical cyclones we need to track that have a pretty decent shot at developing. Let's just get straight into things though, and first things first, we're taking a look at our current radar imagery here. As you can see, we have plenty of storminess taking place all the way from the south central United States in through the southeastern United States and up the eastern United States as well, all the way up to the northeast. We have a little bit of activity taking place here as well for Utah, Oregon, Idaho, Nevada, and maybe even Washington as well. We'll take a look at that area as well here. We'll actually start with this area. We do have just some lighter showers taking place pretty sporadically throughout this region. Definitely worth noting, but it's just going to be some sprinkles here and there, so not anything huge taking place. Now for the state of Texas and New Mexico, actually, we have a couple of different things going on here. First off, we have this area in here, which is a little bit more persistent storminess here in the more central Texas into portions of New Mexico. And then we have this Gulf of Mexico energy kind of heading into Texas here in eastern Texas, all the way up into portions of Oklahoma and Arkansas. So I look at it as two different areas of storminess taking place. And you can kind of split it up like this. So I think this is the Gulf energy coming up, and then this is your more inland area that's not coming from the Gulf. And definitely you can tell there's a difference in the structure of the storms as well. That one a little bit further west looks more showery, a little bit heavier in some spots, but that one to the east definitely looks like more isolated and scattered tropical thunderstorms taking place near Houston all the way up through Dallas. Now, as we move along the rest of the Gulf Coast here, we can see that there is just these little areas of thunderstorms that are taking place in here as well. Throughout Florida, possibly Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana. Said some of those backwards there, but these areas cannot be ruled out for some of these isolated thunderstorms throughout the day today. Most of these are offshore at this point, though. It's usually how it goes. As we take a look a little bit further northward, we can see for the Carolinas, near the coast, there is some of this activity. It could potentially reach more inland towards the coast at certain points. We do have this area of storminess that's heading eastward. Eventually, we'll also reach east of the Appalachian Mountains and bring some storminess there. And then we have some isolated and scattered showery activity here for the northeast, but more storminess is on the way. We see those areas of storms in Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Kentucky. That's going to be headed northward into the northeast, into the New England states as well. So be on the lookout for that, as we're going to have more and more activity heading into these regions fairly soon here. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to move on. We're going to just dive into that upcoming pattern where there's a lot to go over, talking about that upcoming pattern, and then we'll track these tropical cyclones that are really, really crucial because there's a lot of things that can go differently. We could be seeing some United States threats, or they could be out to sea, and we really need to determine what's going to take place. All right, now here we are taking a look at some of that upcoming storminess. We can see that by the time we are reaching later on today, we see that most of this storminess is extending through the eastern and Gulf states of the United States. It's going to be the trend here as we reach tomorrow, which is going to be already August 31st, the final day of summer and August. We see the south central United States here dealing with some of the storminess, also the southeast, and then we have a big-time low-pressure system up there in Canada is bringing some of that storminess up there to the New England states also. Very, very interesting setup. Now, by the time we reach about Thursday, September 1st, we see a lot of this storminess throughout the south, mostly the south central and southeastern United States there. Friday here is going to be September 2nd. We still see a lot of this storminess in the same spots. Possibly a cold front coming through on about Saturday, which is going to be September 3rd. We see this low up here, and we see some storminess dangling down underneath that. That is bringing some cold air behind it, first off, but also some storminess along that line. We still have a lot of this storminess underneath as well. So a pretty interesting setup that we see there. Sunday, which is going to be September 4th, we see some of this storminess in here, I think, is due to that cold front that's somewhere in here. And then we still see the southeastern United States dealing with some storminess. There's our tropical cyclone as well over here. Let's keep going with this. By Monday, the 5th of September here, we still see a lot of the eastern United States dealing with most of this storminess. And then by the time we reach the 6th, which will be Tuesday, September 6th, our tropical cyclone is here. Obviously now We're using the European model, and this is not showing a major storm. It's a very weak low pressure system, so that's really good news as well. And not only is that good news, but it also kind of turns it away from the coast. As you can see, what we have happening here is a jet stream that is diving down, bringing a lot of this storminess, and probably this tropical cyclone. If it takes long enough, it'll ride along this. Now, if it moves quicker, that's when it could pose a threat to Florida, could pose a threat to the eastern United States, somewhere, probably more like the southeastern mid-Atlantic, obviously, but nothing could be ruled out. Now, by Thursday the 8th here, we see this as well, innocently offshore. We see that there is still storminess in the same spots up here. Some storminess brewing for the northwest as well. By the time we reach the end of the model run, we see some snowfall mixing in up there in the northwest as well. Very, very interesting stuff. Here's the total precipitation through the next 10 days, and look at how dry things are out west. Very interesting, because if you're in the whites, you expect practically no precipitation over the next 10 days. Your grays would be about a tenth of an inch or less of precipitation. Your greens would be a tenth of an inch to half an inch. Your blues would be half an inch to an inch. Your yellows would be an inch to 2 inches. Your reds would be 2 to 5 inches. And then your browns would be 5 to 10 inches of precipitation, which we see some of that there for Texas and Mexico, obviously. A lot of these reds happening in the Gulf states and the East states. And then, again, now west, very, very dry. Very unusual pattern. Now, for the extended temperature outlook, we do see some cooler temperatures over the next 7 days. Trending in for the eastern United States here, potentially. We're less confident in that. We're more confident in the colder temperatures later on in September. 7th through the 14th seems like it could be cool. We do see a bit of a warm-up from the 17th through the 24th, where it looks more cold out west, I would say, than the east. A little bit of a confused look on the pattern. But this is when things start to look really cold. Arctic blast here to start October is what this long-range model is saying. The 29th of September through the 6th of October looks seriously cold. And then still the 7th through the 14th of October, most of that cold air being in the eastern United States. So over the next little while here, maybe month and a half, this model is trending at more cold in the east than the west. I can show you this on screen, but this is the next 30 days basically, and then you can see a lot of the cold is out here, more neutral out west. The model looks a little bit confused there, but overall that's what we're looking at. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to move on. We're going to take a look at the 5-day graphical tropical weather outlook. We'll look at that intensity guidance for our tropical cyclone near the eastern United States, and also the spaghetti model guidance for that one as well. Now here's the 5-day graphical tropical weather outlook, and as you can see, we have a code red and a code orange. We've dropped the 2 yellow areas, but these have gone up in probability pretty significantly. We have a 50% chance of development here with this one over the next 48 hours, and then a 80% chance of development over the next 5 days. So definitely a very, very high chance of development here. You can see this one is expected to curve northward, thankfully, after yesterday's model guidance change. They really started to trend slower with it and more north, and have greatly diminished the risk for the United States, but it still isn't ruled out yet. So definitely stay tuned. Things can change back just as easily. I've seen these things flip-flop a lot, especially with tropical cyclones, so it's just going to have to be watched quite a bit. Now, we do see this orange area here in our main development region, and this one has a 20% chance of development over the next 2 days, but a 40% chance, a medium chance over the next 5 days. So this one is going up by about 10% per day, and at this pace, it will eventually be a code red as well, and we could be seeing 2 tropical cyclones coming up soon. Now, something interesting to note is that if we don't see any of these develop until September 1st, at least, we basically will have an August with no tropical storms, developed tropical storms, and it'll be like the 3rd time in 60 years that that's even happened. So that would be an interesting statistic that is on the line here with this system imminently going to develop. We definitely need to watch it closely. It's going to be an interesting situation to say the least. Now, for the intensity guidance, as you can see, we have a lot of models being very explosive with this one. We have some models being a little bit more gradual. Overall, there is a concerning amount of models that have us heading category 1, 2, or even 3 status here. There is a group here that you can see that really does not bring us into that hurricane status. And then there's these ones up here, group number 2, that have it much more quickly developing. even some just showing rapid intensification towards category 2 and 3 status. Definitely on the fence here, but something between a strong tropical storm and even hurricane is looking to be the most likely outcome over the next 5 days or so. So it'll most likely be a tropical storm within that time frame. We do have a couple of models, including the UCMET model, which is very, very similar to the European model. We don't have the European model here, but it probably is in agreement with this blue one that we see here. And these ones don't really have us developing to a tropical storm. So there is a handful of models that also just don't even have this one developing outright. But I would say 85% of these at least have us developing into tropical storm. And then about 40% have us going into category 1. And then a couple have us going up to category 2 or 3 there as well. So there is multiple options on the table here. Definitely stay tuned with us daily because there's a lot that can change, a lot that can happen here, and just a lot that we need to pay attention to. Now, for the spaghetti model guidance, here we are taking a look at this, and as you can see, a curvature is expected. We're expected to go much further north than anticipated, and then a curvature is expected. I believe this is Bermuda right here in that circle, so somewhere near Bermuda is expected, maybe even further east than Bermuda, which usually puts us at like really, really safe status here in the eastern United States, I'd say. There is a couple of models that don't really have that curvature that are still heading in this general direction, and those models would potentially pose a threat. The eastern United States is somewhere over there. It would potentially pose a threat to the United States and still needs to be watched, but that curvature is really, really nice to see. Now for the GFS ensemble model, we can see here, again, a couple of models taking it into this territory, which would put these states potentially at risk. So that would mean these areas need to be on high alert, and they still need to be on alert. But we can also see that there's more than half of these are showing something like this. They're showing us basically get this curvature at the very, very furthest west, very far offshore of the eastern United States, where there wouldn't even be any impacts. So a majority are still showing that, and that's good news at this point, but there is that little bit of grouping going on to the south that definitely shows the potential for possible impacts to the eastern United States that still need to be considered, but hopefully by tomorrow we have a more concise opinion that this will curve out to sea. Hopefully we don't see any of these models starting to trend a little bit further west again towards the eastern United States. This one is still up in the air, I will say. We don't have any clear defined path yet. And we still need to give this one time. So be sure to tune in with us daily as we'll track this storm daily. We'll also track the upcoming pattern in general daily. So subscribe, tune in with us daily. We make videos every single day. Be sure to like the video if you did. Leave a comment down below with your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.